Welcome back to the Metal Exchange. I am Chris. I'm here with Justin, and we have a very special guest, the lovely and talented Maggy Luyten, who gave us a little lesson in how to pronounce her last name properly before the podcast began. But we wanted to speak to Maggy about the Beautiful Sin album, The Unexpected, that we discussed a little over a week ago, and we thought who better to talk to than the voice of that album. So Maggy, welcome to the Metal Exchange. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you. I guess we'll start with the beginning. What better place than that? You're a young musician, and I believe, as the story goes, Uli had reached out to you or something like that. How did you come to kind of get involved with this project? And now, dare I say, almost over 20 years ago.
Oh, you want a long story or the short?
I would love a long story. Let's hear the whole thing.
Well, maybe I can make the long story short to start.
Sure.
Is that we collaborated on another album before Beautiful Sin. And that is Over Us Eden. But I'm not sure you ever heard of that. Have you?
No, I haven't.
I haven't.
Okay. So that's how it all happened. I remember back in the early 2000s, I joined a band in Aachen in Germany, and it was power prog metal, very progressive, complicated riffs and stuff, and it used to be kind of like the band, or with a few vibes from where Uli used to be in the past, way a long time before Halloween and Gamma Ray and stuff. So anyway, Aachen is really Uli's town, where he comes from. He was raised, and so what happened? Is it Rock Justice that just
I think something fell
made
off
a statement?
The wall. Yeah, somebody say that's a sign.
I think Rock Justice made a statement to say, don't talk too much about past stuff and go straight to the point. That's what it really is. It's the universe talking, But anyway, so yeah, and so he was the one producing Over Us Eden at the time. So he coached me during the vocal recordings, and it was so amazing. We had such a great connection. He made me laugh. He made me cry. He made me be a badass and shit myself in a way of like, what am I doing? I thought I was good already, but I was not good enough. So every time, and he really pushed me. So, but we had such a great time. And then after that album was recorded, so Over Us Eden, I remember he said, hey, would you like, maybe would be cool if you could do a duet on Master Plan with Jorn. And of course, I was like, yeah, I would love that. I was such a fan of Jorn with Ark, Burn the Sun back then, and so in the end, it did not happen. That duet didn't happen because I wasn't a name, I wasn't popular, and it wasn't strategically interesting to have me on a duet for Master Plan. And I'm not mad. I really get the business shit, so it's all good. So it didn't happen, but Uli was disappointed, and he said like, hey, what about you sing on my solo album? And I'm like, of course. I mean, yeah, anything from you, all good, let's do it. And so we started working on these songs. And once it came to having a record label, I believe I can say it now, 20 years later, but the label prefers to sell a band than a solo album of a drummer, even if it's fucking Uli Kush,
Yep.
And so that's how everything started to become more a band. So he gathered, the greatest, like Jorn Viggo Lofstad from Pagan's Mind on the guitar, and then Steiner Krogmo on bass, also from Pagan's Mind, and Axel Mackenroth, I hope I say it right, that used to play in Master Plan on the keyboards. And And so it became a band without being a real band, you know, at the time. And that's how we met. So, yeah.
It's interesting.
Was Uli still in Masterplan at the time
Yeah.
that these seeds were being laid for this?
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, he was still in Masterplan. Of course he was. Yeah, he was. Completely.
When Chris and I really got into metal in like the mid to late 90s, Halloween was like a gateway drug for us. Once we heard Halloween, all bets were off. And I remember when Uli and Roland, who we spoke to a couple of years ago, when they left Halloween, on the one hand, we were devastated because I thought the music they made together was just pure magic in the late 90s. But at the same time, we were excited about obviously hearing Masterplan for the first time. And when we heard that Uli was coming out with this project, it was a blind purchase, right? We knew we were going to get the album as soon as it was released. Mm-hmm. And it was one of the first kind of super groups that had come together. Now this happens a lot. You see collaborations with artists, but in 2005, 2006, you were not seeing this as often. So I'm curious if you know how he got the guys from Pagan's Mind. He was pulling in from kind of the prog metal from Norway, obviously you know, your vocals and then tapping into Masterplan. But did he ever discuss with you like how and why he chose the artists he did when he put Beautiful Sin together?
I love that question. I really do. And I won't really answer it because I don't want to talk out of my ass.
There you go. Yeah.
So I, you know, back then I was young. I was starting to have a little bit experience, but I really didn't have much experience. And therefore also I don't think I was asking the right questions back then. So I can't answer. But what is funny is that, you know, you're talking about Halloween and a nice anecdote that actually created some kind of bond with Uli from the very beginning is that the guys from Over Us Eden told me, yeah, it's going to be Uli Kush from, you know, Halloween. He's going to record our band. It's amazing. And I was like, who is Uli Kush? You know? And what is Halloween? I mean, is that, you know, the party thing of, you know, the scary shit? And I had no idea, and I'm not ashamed. I was just not listening to this kind of music back then, you know, and so I didn't know who he was. And when we met for the very first time, I wasn't impressed by him, you know.
Interesting.
I wasn't at all, and I think it was. I believe it was kind of refreshing for him. Because I was not, you know, licking his ass or, you know.
Yeah.
And I think it was a cool, immediate human connection that started, where it was really about the music and about good talks and sharing the vibes, but not about, I'm going to work with Uli Kush. You know, I didn't, but after, of course, while we were going, I started to let it in, like, whoa, and I looked him up and stuff, and I got something ready for you because I think you guys like those kind of things. I always kept it. He sent me this. I don't know if you can see.
Nice.
Right?
The highlight DVD, yeah.
Yeah, he sent me this to say maybe you want to watch, and so you get to know what I'm doing. And there was a little Post-it inside. It's the first one ever, you know, that I ever shared this online. So exclusive for you.
Thank you.
I'm going to try to make a zoom. Let's see. Can you read it?
Will you do us the honors?
Yeah, it's a little blurry, but
okay. So it's written from the boring drummer for the singer who's not in tune. With respect, Uli. And that was after we did Over Us Eden, because I remember, you know, I told him, yeah, but you know, double bass, it's boring, and it was like, wow, okay, and then he taught me to say to the singer who's not in tune, because, I was sometimes pitchy, and I still am nowadays, sometimes, a little bit under the note. Because it's not always perfect, whatever, I improved, but he really helped me a lot. And so that's what he sent me. And I always kept it because I think it's very precious.
I think that's beautiful. I think there's like an honesty there, which quite frankly, somebody like him who had toured the world at this point. I remember when Chris and I saw him in New York City, Halloween did a one-off show in 1998. I know I'm dating myself, but Halloween was not touring the US at that point in time. Now it's obviously very different, but at the time we saw him, and this is a guy that had just toured the world, but at the same time, because you either didn't appreciate or, dare I say, understand what his history was, there was a brutal honesty there. And I think that he probably appreciated that because, to your point, you weren't just, propping him up because of the name or anything else. So I think that's really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I also think that in a way it kind of set me on a right track to stick with my values my whole career. And that's really cool. I'm very grateful for that,
I would imagine he probably appreciated the honesty, and I think that, I don't know him, so I don't know that if he was a very egotistical guy, he might not have been, but it probably was a little humbling to hear somebody come in and be like, I don't know who you are. Let's just make this, let's just make this album.
One thing I can tell you is that, it's been a long time since I haven't got in touch with Uli, but he's definitely nothing pretentious. He's proud, and he should be. He's proud, but he's also very humble, and those two things go well together. But pretentious, why would he be pretentious? Mm-hmm. Because he already did so much, So
right.
There's no use for pretentiousness.
We've had the pleasure of talking to Roland and even meeting him at Prog Power USA. And if Uli's anything like Roland, then I would imagine he's got to be a pretty humble and kind guy, because Roland was really great to us. And so I had always said, and Justin can definitely echo this, we always said that era of Halloween that involved Uli and Roland, I think, was probably, now that so much time has passed, is so underappreciated. And those two guys added so much to both musically and songwriting wise to that era of the band. And Halloween never had a drummer who wrote songs for them other than Uli. He was the only one, and he wrote some of the most unique songs for that band at the time. And I feel like he took that songwriting, that unique songwriting skill, and brought it over to this beautiful Sin album and made it his baby, because I know Master Plan really was him and Roland working together. Mm-hmm. And this is something that he could kind of take on his own and mold in his way. Yeah,
I think it's important for fans to acknowledge that this was supposed to be a solo album. And that, for public matter, and then, like I said, strategic purposes, it became Beautiful Sin and a band. And I think it's pretty cool because it feels tight, the way it all turned out to be a band, even if unfortunately we never got on stage together and stuff. But remember, this was supposed to be a solo album, and that really shows. He, like you say, it's his baby. It's his baby, and he's smart enough to surround himself with talented people and take what's to be taken to make it, to enhance the whole thing. So yeah.
What were you listening to at the time as you were kind of coming up in the scene? What were your biggest influences, either vocally or just, what were the kind of music that you gravitated towards, when you were in your 20s?
Well, back then, since I just did not Beautiful Sin, Over Us Eden, I remember I was also in Virus 4 at the time. Yeah. And what I was listening the most to was really bands like Symphony X, Dream Theater, Angra, Arc, big time Arc.
It's funny you mentioned those bands, because I was mentioning to Chris, when you look at just the collection of bands that you've worked with or artists that you've worked with, you kind of straddle the line between Beautiful Sin, which is an interesting album because it's like partially power metal, and a lot of it is that prog metal stuff, which is what my kind of taste is, especially even now. And you mentioned a lot of these bands that are from my neck of the woods here in America, in the northeast of, you know, New York, New Jersey, etc. Interesting that you were kind of leaning that way. And then you come out with this, where there's several of these songs on this album actually have that more Halloween or Master Plan vibe. And then others, I think, are a little more Pagan's Mind or a modern prog type of style. And for the record, that Arc album, Burn the Sun, 10 out of 10 desert island disc for me, even to this day. We've talked about that album in long form in the past, but it's interesting that you were kind of listening to that kind of music, and then this album is not really much of that style. There's not that much Dream Theater on this album.
No, it's true. It's true. Yeah. Am I supposed to react on that?
No. I just thought I would mention it. I want to get into the songwriting process. You're invited to join the album. I know that this is kind of an Uli solo album. How much influence did you have over either the songwriting or your own vocal lines as it came to the recording?
It's hard to say, and I tell you why. Because first of all, it's been 20 years, and with time, it's a human thing that there's a tendency sometimes to twist memories, you know? And I want to be very careful with answering this question, because I would say that to be the most, how can I say, in the truth, is that all the inputs that I had was spontaneous, came naturally, and wasn't thought of from the beginning or anything. So it's basically really Uli who came up with everything, and then spontaneously things happened, and I would put my own vibe into it, and that's really what happened. And he was very good at this in such a way that it's hard to even remember where it's my idea or his idea, you know, because it really happened in such a nice, smooth way. So, I could tell you many anecdotes, but I won't go any further for now. But yeah, that's really my answer. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was the recording process like? Just as far as, you know, we talked about, I spoke with Marius Danielson, who makes the Legend of Valley Doom. They're like these power metal, operas, and he has all these guests and stuff. And I had asked him how, recording an album like that, it's just all these different people are sending in their recordings, and it's all, they're not all together in a studio working together like bands did so naturally back in the day. Was that more of the experience you had with this album, where everybody was in a studio together working to put it all together, or were you in different parts of the world? Like, what was the recording process like? And to that point, as you're discovering this music that was written, like, do you remember what your thoughts were as you were working through it and kind of like experiencing it for the first time while also recording the album?
Yeah, well, musically, when it comes to all the instruments and stuff, I wasn't there. But I know that Uli was with everyone every time. And when it comes to vocals, we did everything together. I didn't send anything over. So the most of the songs were recorded in Belgium, where he came over with his whole portable studio over to our place back then, and we really organized a little studio, like we improvised a little studio at my house with all his stuff, and it worked out really well. I guess it was the beginning of the home studio, you know.
But it's funny because the album sounds great even 20 years later sonically. The production, especially given what you're saying, it holds up very well, I think, for an album. You know, this was about the time where things were starting to change, to your point, Chris, when things are getting sent, you know, via wave files across the internet. But this was kind of the early days of that, but it holds up well.
Yeah, well, he definitely knows what he's doing. So, that's how we did it. And then another part of the album, including Spark of Ignition, I remember very well that one, we finished in Norway. So I flew over to Norway and to his place, and that's where we finished the album. Yeah.
As you kind of look back, and I still can't believe that it's been 20 years, but as you look back, I mean, we haven't aged at all three of us. So I'm glad to say that. But, you know, as we look back 20 years, are there any songs that kind of stand out to you that really either held the test of time or some that were amongst your favorites to either record or to help with the production piece?
Oh, wow. Well. You know, it's been 20 years, and to be honest, I hadn't listened to the album for a long time, and it's because it was the anniversary, and then you guys invited me for this podcast. I was like, oh, I'm gonna listen a little bit again, and therefore I started to actually work on a version of Moonwalk that I would like to have a little bit more with the sounds that I love and a little bit acoustic, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm working on that. But I don't think those songs aged one bit and the production just is so good. I would never, if someone else told me and forget I'm singing in there and I listen to it, I would never think that this was 20 years ago in the sound and in the way. And even when I hear, you know, Jorn on the guitar, and I thought, like, he was already so good back then. I mean, whoa. And we're 20 years later. Whew, this is hot, you know? So yeah. And then when it comes to favorites, it depends on the mood. It depends on the days, but I know that there were songs that I was not into, for example, you know?
Interesting.
Like, for example, Lost. I was like, I didn't feel it because he asked me to sing so high and I wasn't used to that. Like, in my dream, you came, you know, I was, you know, and he said, yeah, it's going to be great. It's just at your limit and it sounds so good. And he was right, you know?
Yeah. I mean, even if he was pushing you to do things outside of your comfort zone, it worked because, I mean, not only is that one of the feature songs on the album, but because it has that whole Halloween vibe going back to the song from The Dark Ride, he starts the album with it. So right off the bat, for those that hadn't heard your prior work, that's their introduction. And then I think for a lot of the album, you come down a little bit in terms of the range. So you're really showing off your versatility right out of the gate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And that's another fun fact is that I had no idea how that Halloween song sounded like. So I was very neutral and objective about, for me, this was a complete new song, you know. That helps, you know.
All these years later, I feel like if you go back and listen to both of them back to back, they really do feel like they have their own identity. Like they don't really, one doesn't really feel like a cover of the other. It just feels like a reimagination of it. And I could say, like, I remember that was the first time I ever heard your voice was that song. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I've never heard, a woman in metal sing in this kind of range. Cause at the time it was all, you know, it was Tarja and it was a lot of operatic vocals, and this, would I be correct in saying that your voice range is contra alto, or in that?
Yeah, it's correct. It's correct. It's so
I don't think that there was very many artists that, like in power metal, that had a female vocalist that sang like that. And so I thought immediately, this is very interesting. This is really different and really cool. And, but it's funny because I didn't remember the rest of the album all that well. And when I saw that it was 20 years coming up, I'm like, I think we need to go back and just, me personally, I need to revisit this album because I remember how much I liked that one song. I have a friend who loved the whole album. And so I started listening to it again and I'm like, wow, like I really missed the boat on this when it came out because this is outstanding. And to your point, it does not feel like, to me, if this came out last week, I would not have questioned it. It has a modern sound for a 20-year-old album. So I agree with what you said about it not aging. I don't think it's aged at all.
Yeah.
There were a lot of... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
No, it's magic, just saying.
There were so many people who commented or contacted us or commented in various social media posts. People were coming out of the woodwork. I was almost pleasantly surprised at what a reception this got in May of 2026, because when Chris picked the album, I was happy to go back to it, but I didn't know if the crowd response was going to be as positive. Just because, again, time changes things. But you should know, I think that 20 years later, the reception was just overwhelmingly positive to the point where I was actually pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, right. Well, I think so too. I think the cool situation about the album is that it was very well promoted back then. By AFM Records, including Marcus Vosgin, who has now Fireflash Records, and where we are now with Rock Justice. I'm just creating a connection. How the whole circle comes back sometimes. I find it wonderful. But yeah, there was a really good promotion behind it, and also, I mean, Pagan's Mind is still doing it, and Uli did other things after that. And I was always, I was always active. All these years, I never stopped. It's just that I never tried too much when it comes to promotion. And today in 26, I'm like, okay, I really want to be not me out there, because I really don't care if you only knew how I feel sometimes. But I want my music out there. I want people to know about what I did and what I am doing. So I am getting into it. Like I set up the camera and, let's do it, because then it's, in the end, it's fun. It's fun. I like it. Yeah.
What this album did for me is it made me aware of who you were. And then anytime I saw your name attached to something after this, I was like, holy shit, I need to listen to this because I love Maggy's voice so much. Like that I almost kind of hoped there was going to be more over the next 20 years. But I mean, I have all of the Ayreon Blu-rays and there's so much, if you dig, there's stuff out there. I remember, when you were on a Nightmare album, I was like, I've never listened to Nightmare before, but I'm going to listen to this album because I love Maggy's voice. So that's what this Beautiful Sin album at least did for me. It made me aware of who you were. And then I was like, someone would send me a video and they'd be like, oh, this is a video from Maiden United. Do you know this singer, Maggy? She's singing The Trooper. And I'd be like, oh my God, this is awesome. I love Maggy. Clearly I'm a fan and I'm not doing a very good job of hiding that. But, that's kind of where this, lands for me, is kind of this is where I discovered who you were. Did you have any hopes that this would turn into more than just a one-off? Did you hope that there would be tours? Did you hope that there'd be another album? It almost feels like it's this just one wonderful album that kind of just got lost to time and there wasn't really much follow-up. I know that the band added another guitar player at one point, after the album was released, but were there any plans to do more, or was it just kind of a... The
other guitar player you're talking about never got to do anything. So he was announced, but then there was nothing, But yeah, That's the story of my life. I think I got cursed already back then to only go for one album every time per band. But yeah, I know that Uli had high hopes and expectations, and he really wanted to get that band on tour and keep going. And unfortunately, back then I was, like I said, I was young and very, very much influenced by some other people, that I won't name because they don't deserve the attention, really. So, but it influenced my choice on saying no. I'm not gonna do it, and and deep inside I wanted to, and so I let it happen to me, and that's just it's kind of a regret, but on the other hand, it really isn't, because it's part of my path, and I learned so much from this. So therefore, it never really went anywhere, and I think Willie was very disappointed, and I'm sorry about that. For that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, and I think that people always hold out hopes for reunions and people getting back together. But I also think that things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
And to Chris's point, even if this was a gateway to your vocals for many people would follow the rest of your career. And so I'm not going to go through each and every band and side project in the interest of your time.
It's going to take too long.
Yeah, listen, I mean, but there's a couple in particular that I think we wanted to touch on. The first is Ayreon. When we spoke to, when we covered Ayreon albums in the past on the podcast, and what I've always found interesting is that Arjun said that he had a unique knack for kind of picking out the right vocalists and putting them on the right songs. And I think that is apparent. And you obviously have worked with them not only in the studio, but then on tour. How did you get involved with Arjun? How did he first hear of you? Was it this Beautiful Sin album, or was it some of your other work? And how did that project come to be?
Well, that is interesting because Ayreon once told me that the first time he heard my voice was actually over Eden. Over Eden was the CD was sent by the guitar player from Virus 4, the band I was in back then, and he sent Over Eden to Ayreon, and Ayreon told me, it's like, wow, that's interesting, and then that was it. But then later he heard Beautiful Sin, and he said, I recognized your voice, and that's where I knew. That I wanted to do something, and that's where he contacted me. It's so it's again thanks to Beautiful Sin, yeah.
It's
do you have any fun stories or memories of being a part of the Ayreon universe, so to speak? Just because I know, like, it definitely feels like you are now part of Arjen's immediate musical family. Like, there's people that he, especially with these Blu-rays that I think celebrate these concerts that they do every year. And sure enough, like, at least on the last 2 or 3, like, you're there. And so I just am curious, like, what that experience has been like for you being part of that. Cause Ayreon is such a huge deal in the prog metal world. Yeah,
it really is. Well, I remember that the first time I heard Ayreon was in a CD store, and you'll understand why I'm saying this, because I was looking for new music, and I asked the guy, like, hey, do you have like any cool prog metal kind of thing? And he said, you have to check this out, the Electric Castle. And I looked in the back, and I was like, whoa, that's awesome. And then the Flight of the Migrator, Russell is on there. And I saw Bruce Dickinson on the Black Hole. I was like, whoa. And I became such a fan. And so that is really, the cool thing about being in Ayreon is that I think when you're first a fan and then you are in the project, then it comes from another place, because you're there because you really love it, and not for other reasons. But then the other reasons become this amazeball bonus thing of like now you get exposure and you're gonna sing with all these other amazing singers, and be part of the experience and the just only to think about the setup, the stage, how giant and that is, and then the fire and he's not fucking around. So that is a great experience that with your own band, unless you're really somewhere, it's hard to pull off every show. So to be part of that is really wonderful. And what I also liked is that, at first it was, first experience was on the 01 album where I went to his place and there I sang the songs, Ride the Comet and Liquid Eternity and only, what was it, to 8 and then to 17 or something? Yeah, something like that, where he contacts me again, like, hey, I'm going to do a live show and you want to be on it? And I was like, of course, super cool, let's do it. And so to have done it 3 times is just, it's fantastic because it means something. It means that you're there for a obvious good reason, and Ayreon likes to choose his people when there is a voice, but there is also a nice human being, and which I think I am, and because everyone in that team is just so wonderful, and it's a really nice vibe, and everyone is helping each other out, and we laugh and we have good times, or we completely isolate because we need our little time alone, and
Sure.
But the last Ayreon shows, unfortunately, I did not have the best experience, even if it was still really wonderful. But I was sick. I was so sick. I had very not much energy, so I didn't even jump. Like I would maybe jump in the crowd, or I wouldn't go too much talk with the fans, which usually I really love that, and I would just stay at the hotel and, and then on stage, his show must go on and smile. And I meant it, every second of it, but fuck, that was hard. Really...
I doubt anybody noticed, honestly. Like,
I hope so. But even if they do, you're only human after all, right?
Sure, and, of course.
And so, but every time was so different, and at the same time the same, like it was yesterday. You're going back there, and then it's really cool.
I could tell you, and I have no problem speaking for Justin when I say this, that the both of us really hope to make it over there for one of those Ayreon shows one of these years. I know it's definitely a bucket list thing for the both of us, and so we're hoping to at some point make that a reality. Yeah. So Another band I wanted to talk to you about, and I'm willing to bet you weren't expecting that one of us were going to bring this up, okay. But there was a little band called Beyond the Bridge that was from Germany, and they released one album, and it was a really, really fantastic album called The Old Man and the Spirit. It came out in 2012. It was just this out of nowhere, like it's an album that I've had on my list, Justin, to talk about at some point. And we had the pleasure of seeing them come to the US and play they were a replacement band at Prague Power. They opened up the Saturday night at Prague Power, and they were fantastic. And not only that, but we spent a lot of time afterwards talking to the guys in the band, particularly Simon, who passed away shortly after we saw them. We spent an hour or 2 hours talking to him, and then a couple of weeks later he was gone, and we were like, wow. But we got to meet all the guys in the band. They were super nice. And then shortly thereafter, I go onto YouTube and I see there's a Beyond the Bridge video, and sure enough, there's Maggy singing along with Beyond the Bridge. What was how did that come about, and what was that like? I don't think it lasted super long because I think the band kind of disbanded shortly thereafter. But what was that experience like?
Oh, it was really wonderful. It's Peter who called me, and and he said, like, do you think you could jump in on our tour? Because the singer just left for personal reasons, and it would be, you know, their first tour ever, and everything was ready, and he was like, we so want to do this tour, and you could maybe save us. And I said,
no pressure.
Yeah. I said, well, I'm totally into send me the stuff, and then I want to hear and whatever. And I really loved it. And of course I was very excited because that would also be my first tour back then. On a bus, I mean, you know, like, I toured before, but that would be the real bus tour finally, you know? And so I don't remember how long I had, but probably not even a month, you know, to learn all the songs. Maybe it was 2 months or 2 weeks. Honestly, I don't remember. All I know is that I worked my ass off to be ready. And because there was no way I would read my lyrics on stage. That is something I can't stand unless it's covers, you know. But so yeah, I was ready, and to go on tour with these guys was very sweet. They're very nice people, and we had a lot of good times also outside of the stage time, you know, because we had a little bit time to visit Köln and Vienna, and I remember it was really, really nice. So yeah, that was a good experience. Very cool.
I have such fond memories of talking to those guys. They could not have been a nicer group of people. Like, I just really, really enjoyed speaking with them. And so I was so excited to see that you had joined them shortly thereafter. I only wish that it was a little bit earlier so you could have been there too in the US and we could have seen you sing with them. But, you know, timing is timing. There's nothing you could do about it. So, Justin, I've done a lot of talking. Why don't you?
Yeah, I'm really curious about not only where we have been, but where we're going from here. I know a lot of people are interested to hear about what you're going to sing about next, and the projects that you're working on. So, if you would tell us what you're working on now and what we can look forward to as we get into 2026 and beyond.
Oh well. Rock Justice with a guitar player Basmas, who plays with Doro Pesch, and who also plays with After Forever. And it's fun because I don't have to say who used to play in After Forever, because After Forever is actually back on tour. And that's really cool. I think it's fantastic that they're back. So Rock Justice, I got the thing ready, the one that you saw earlier that fell.
Yes.
Right? To be honest, I put it there for the podcast, so it was not hanging properly, you know. So I'm not surprised. But there it is, and this is the album. We have it on vinyl, as you can see, with a fantastic artwork from Christian Leon. He's a Brazilian artist, and it's going to be released on the 26th of June this year. So it's called You've Been Served. So I can't hand it through the camera, but You've Been Served. And
we appreciate that. Not many weeks away, which is great. It's funny because you mentioned After Forever. We had Sandra Gomez on several years ago when After Forever was kind of dormant. And so when we saw the announcement that they were back together, we were wondering if we played any role in that when we started reminiscing. No, I kid. But it's great to see them back together. This project sounds fantastic, and we're a month away from the official release, so we'll be checking that out. For people that have not heard any of the clips yet, you want to talk about the style or the type of music that you kind of compare that band to?
I don't like to compare anymore, but it's definitely old school, hard rock, heavy metal. The highway for fun, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
And there's even and that is super fantastic, a duet with Doro on it called First in Line. And the clip came out on last Friday.
Yeah, just the other day.
Yeah. So that is also wonderful, because these lyrics are about, giving a tribute to those guys from the past, and mainly Dio.
Absolutely.
He's the guy.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to that album quite a bit. I have to check out these tunes. There's 3 songs that have already been released. You Know Better, Rocker's Confession, and First in Line. So
you did your research. Very good.
Yeah. I literally just bought all 3 songs on iTunes while we were speaking. So
good job.
So, tell everyone where they can find you, in terms of your socials and the best way to contact you if they want to contact you, and then we will obviously let you go. We appreciate you joining us today.
Well, I appreciate very much as well, and I'm glad it turned out to work like this. I will send you
peek behind the curtain. We had some technical difficulties, but we're back. We're back, baby. We're back.
That's right. So maybe I can also mention something new that I'm very excited about, and it's time that I start to talk about it. It's Patreon. I started 3 months ago, and on purpose didn't post too much about it yet, because I really needed to understand how that all works. You know. And it's really fun, because it fits with my personality to have first like this more intimate space where I can share a bit more freely, like we're doing now, but in a real connection thing. And then once this is like filtered out, then say like, okay, now this goes public for everyone, which means also anyone. And some content I really feel doesn't deserve to be posted, and where people just scroll past, and then they go, or they go, thank you for the thumbs, but of course, thank you for the thumbs. Keep doing the thumbs. That is how it works now. Do the thumbs, please. But I need a little more than that, and it doesn't mean I need comments all over the place, but just to feel that there was a little more meaning and connection behind what I just posted. And Patreon is a very good place for this. So I call it my magnetic field. And I really want to, build something fun over there too. So I will send you the link if
nice. We'll post that in the comments below so people can check that out. Yeah. That's great. And
we use it. We use it too, and we love it. We have like a chat that's only Patreon members, and every day they're just chatting about like current stuff they're listening to currently.
That's so cool.
Right now they're talking about like their favorite Van Halen albums from the David Lee Roth era. Like I get a kick out of like every morning I wake up and I go to see, like, because we have one of our patrons lives in Denmark, so he's posting his stuff like while we're asleep. So I wake up in the morning and I see all this conversation, and we have another member in Australia, so everyone's on like different time zones or whatever, and I get to look and see what everybody's talking about. So I as an artist, I can only imagine how nice that feels for you, but also for the people to like feel like they're part of something a little bit more intimate and not public, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's cool. And I also like to share, behind the scenes stories and vocals only, or old demos that I will never post on MySpace. So those things that I really enjoy it, because there's also, like for 20 years, there's a lot that I held back from posting because I'm a perfectionist, and therefore I might sometimes procrastinate and say like, maybe later when it's really good, but then I listen to it now and I was like, that was good. Come on, what are you talking about,
And sometimes we're our own worst critics, and so you don't realize how good something is. But I think that's human nature in many respects. But at least you're giving fans and you're giving people an outlet to hear this stuff that they would have otherwise never had a chance to check out in the past. So I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, Yeah. So there it is. So yeah. So check out Rock Justice. You've been served. 26th of June, and since you guys are on YouTube with this podcast, make sure you have that link to Rock Justice because our channel needs to grow and we need the thumbs up and subscribes.
We know how that algorithm works.
We'll most definitely do that. Before we let you go, I kind of forgot to mention this earlier when we were talking about Beautiful Sin. So I just wanted to ask about there was a Japanese bonus track that I wasn't even aware of until we started, prepping for this episode. And it's a song called She Is Made of Rain. And it's a really beautiful, more of like a ethereal kind of, it doesn't really feel like a power metal song. It's almost like a very beautiful pop song. Do you remember if you had any input on that track? And it feels like very different from the rest of the album, but it's really, really nice. And it's got you singing in a very just like a very peaceful and I don't know, I'm having a hard time describing it, but it's really pretty, I guess, for lack of a better term. So I was just curious if you had any memories, because I always find it fascinating that these random tracks just get lost in Japan. Like they come out in Japan and nobody ever hears them. And so I was always fascinated by that when I first started getting into metal, that there were these Japanese CDs that were $30 that had one extra song on it. And it was like, oh yeah, I'll pay $15 more for one more song. That, cause it was, back then you wanted as much as you could get. There was no downloading 6 albums at a time or whatever.
That's right.
So,
yeah, good times.
Just curious if you had any fond memories of that one song.
Not particularly that song, but I mean, if you want a fun memory, I still have 5 minutes, and that was on Pechvogel. That's I have a very fun memory. Maybe you can edit that earlier in the conversation.
No, it's good. We keep it natural. So
okay, but I remember Pechvogel was really fun because that was one of the songs that I was not into because of the lyrics. I woke up on a terrible morning, should have known because it came with a warning. I was like, yeah, I don't, and it's like a man talking, and I don't feel like I'm the Pechvogel. I don't want to be the Pechvogel. I don't want to be an unlucky. I don't feel it, And he said, he said something like, I don't care if it's not you, but I want you to become the story. And he really coached me into that becoming and living the whole story. And we peed our pants, not Peter Pan, but we peed our pants from fun, especially. And you can hear, if you listen to that song again, I'm gonna tell you where I say at some point, I'm like, my knees were bleeding and my keys never found. It's like my knees were bleeding and my keys never, this. And you can hear that after never found. It's like the voice was cut because I started laughing so hard, that he cut it for the song, but he kept that one because it was so cool, and
natural.
Yeah, and I ended up loving that song so much. It happened to me many times. It could happen to you, but it happened to me.
I
remember also not loving the song at first, and then it grew on me the more and more I listened to it. And I even mentioned in the episode when we talked about the album that line about forgot about the importance of news, so I just gave a shit and I tied my shoes. That made me laugh. Yeah. I just thought there was something very relatable and real about that line. Yeah. And so I'm glad that you told that story. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's fun, and I really liked. I remember I'm the one suggesting to rap it. If I'm not wrong, I really remember even where I was when I was trying to rap it out, upstairs. I remember, and I because I felt like, and I wanted to sound like a guy and to be like with a lot of hair and be nasty and be like, I'm unlucky,
It's a memorable track for all those reasons and more. So for some reason it just kind of works, even though it's a bit quirky and different. So
yeah, Yeah.
Kudos to that.
Yeah.
Maggie, thank you so much for taking the time. We really appreciate you. We wish you nothing but the best of luck with not only the Patreon, but the new album.
Thank you.
Again, you can check out the links below and check out what, Maggie's website as well, where it talks more about her historical projects and some of the stuff that's coming up. It's been a pleasure, and we look forward to checking all this out and more. I hope you have a wonderful day, and thanks for coming to the Metal Exchange.
Yay, thank you, and maybe see you next time.
See you next
Thanks,
time.
Maggie.
Good luck with the next podcast, because it's very cool what you're doing. Just a nota bene, because it's very organic and very natural. It's cool because it's for the old school guys. You take your time.
Right.
I like when you
Thank
take
you.
your time. Bye-bye.